Welcome back to Balance Redefined. I am so happy to share with you some wonderful thoughts that we have with our fabulous Dr. Trish Barris. Always happy to have you back. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks, Connie.
So great. And we are thrilled today to talk a little bit about dispelling 3 myths of self-confidence, getting to the nubs, if you will, of what really self-confidence is and where does it come from and how do we keep that? And of course, one of its little companions is self-doubt that keeps us from that self-confidence. So we're going to talk about how to dispel that self-doubt and how to be able to stay in this place of confidence. So let's just jump right in. What are some of these myths that you talk about of self-confidence? I am excited to share these with people so they can look for these and know that is not true.
Well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about our society right now, right? And what is making our confidence go down. And, again, we are in a doubting society. The World Report on Happiness just came out. And, it says that we have an epidemic of addiction, which then makes our confidence go down on anything. And addiction doesn't have to be, and it said that it doesn't just have to be chemical addiction. It doesn't have to be opioid addiction. We're in an epidemic of thinking that the world is a better, everything in life is better than what we have. I mean, we're talking about things that are just keeping us a comparison game and all of those sorts of things. And people understand that they think that truth is external to them. Truth isn't external to you. Truth is what you think about life and what resonates with you. I'm hot, you're cold, whose truth is right, right? So it comes from inside. And learning that will help us gain more confidence in our lives.
So what I hear you say is there is truth. There is actual factual truth. There is, like, on the thermometer, there's 72 degrees. And so there's truth. But what you're talking about is how we internalize that, how we perceive that truth and what that feels and how real that feels to us, and then how we respond from that.
Exactly. And how we interpret it, right? How we interpret what we're seeing, because everybody interprets everything differently. And so, but sometimes we have this doubt, did I interpret that right? Right. And that's where confidence comes from. It's saying, I'm going to be in tune with my truth and what I know to be true to me. So, yeah.
I love that. And I think that understanding that wow, maybe I'm interpreting a situation will help us with our confidence level, because we're not pinning things on people and we're not saying this is all or nothing. We're able to adjust with the situation or be able to look at it from multiple ways instead of just being so black and white and so rigid.
Exactly.
So what's another one?
And so I think there's myths of confidence. I think we think sometimes that people just are born with confidence, that it's a personality trait. And that's not true. I mean, we can gain confidence by things that happen in our lives that we do well. And sometimes, again, we continue to think, and we get in this habit loop of thinking certain messages. And we think that, again, that it's not... it's not something that we're born with, that again, it isn't something that we're born with, that we can learn how to be confident by having different thought patterns and different messages that we send to ourselves. I mean, we've talked before about neuroplasticity, and sometimes, again, those thought patterns just get indelibly imprinted in our brain because, again, that's how we're thinking. And so personality or confidence is not a personality trait.
I think too, there's that factor. We all know people who are, they are naturally gifted at certain things, naturally gifted at sports or, math, and they are naturally confident people. So from what I understand what you're saying, it doesn't have to be a born thing. It's not like, well, if I wasn't born with that, I can't learn that. This is one of those traits or those abilities that it really is a life skill that we can learn. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And the more we practice something, the more we practice messages, the messages can be negative to ourselves. Oh, I just don't know how to do that. Or and those negative messages will make our confidence go down. And so we have to learn and check ourselves and just say, okay, I've got to be aware of how I'm thinking, because those thinking patterns are making my confidence go down. And And the myth number 2 is kind of like confidence is fixed. That again, it kind of goes along with, that it's a personality trait, that it's a fixed thing that I can't learn. There's a theory out there, the mindset, that it's fixed or there's a growth mindset. And sometimes, again, if we have a fixed mindset, we believe that things are just going to happen to us no matter what. And we tend to think, I can't grow. The things that I do aren't, growth promoting. Yeah.
Love. You know what? You're so right. And it sounds to me like what you're saying is, again, with that plasticity, we just create neural pathways. But it seems like it leads to that question of the skills, like you alluded to before. We do positive messages and we marry that with actions. We marry it with the things that we know we can do. We'll talk about that in a minute. But it is an active pursuit of this wonderful trait of confidence. We just don't expect a little fairy to come and hit us with a wand.
And sometimes we just think that, it's all about a positive attitude, that all we have to have is a positive attitude. And, positive attitudes aren't doing something. We have to take that positive attitude and then do something with it and move in a certain direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can't be, I'm thinking positive thoughts, right? Yeah.
And the two pieces go hand in hand, those abundance meditations and affirmations, and then the actions, the active movement of whatever we're doing. Those two pieces, they really do need to both work together.
And I think I would even throw another myth in there, that we have to prove ourselves to people, that our confidence comes from people. And no, it comes from ourselves. And, I have this little saying that says, you don't have to prove yourself, because you're proof of yourself when you're true to who you are.
Oh, I love that. And isn't that alignment so key? That to me is that core confidence. When we're aligned with what we know to be true and we're living that truth, we're living in alignment, then there is a natural confidence. We're not thinking about being confident. We really are doing things in a confident manner. We're confident because we're not stressed, worried, wondering, trying to impress. We're just living and being.
And, so many times, again, we get caught in that loop a little bit of just having to say, I have to be something for other people. That's not true. But I'll tell you something else too that we get caught in, is we get caught in this, I'm bragging if I'm confident. No, there's a difference between being confident and arrogant. Confident people do not have to brag about themselves, because they have this inner strength and really truly are in touch with them, and they know who they are and they can be that. Arrogant people actually are quite insecure. They have to show all these things, I'm so great, and boast and all that sort of thing. But that's not confidence. Confidence is kind of this quiet inner strength.
It's true. And you feel it more than you see it as a wristwatch or a car or whatever. You feel that aura or that energy from someone. You feel who they are, kind of the essence of who they are. And you would say to yourself, wow, they're really confident. And you wouldn't think much about it. And I love that confident people don't need to have the conversation on themselves or the focus on themselves. They're really free to be able to focus on others and what's happening around them, very highly aware. So I love that those are pieces of that confidence. So let's kind of segue beautifully into what causes this lack of confidence. So we talked a little bit about our society environment, and we can see that social media, and that's why there's so many studies with the effects of this, of depression and anxiety, and what that triggers. So we've got the societal piece. What happens when we're a fairly confident person and then suddenly we have this dip in confidence, or it's about a certain event, or it's about a project we're to do, or it's about a skill now we have to do? What do we do with that?
I think sometimes we think that confidence is all consuming, or everything. We're confident in everything. And confidence is really situational. I mean, we can be confident in one area of our life and not so much in another area of our life, right? And that's okay, because we will build confidence, and it's called the Confidence Competency Loop. And what that means is the more that we're competent in one area of our life, we're going to get more confidence to even go into other areas of our lives and be confident. So and it's practicing and being able to do that.
And finding some things. I've always said to my kids, Let's find something you love to do and then help them get a little bit successful with that, because they need a successful starter. They need something they can come back to and say, you know what, I'm not so good at math, but I rock at English. Or I'm not so good at tennis, but guess what? I rock at volleyball. So that they have some kind of stand. I remember reading about Michael Landon, who was the director of the Little House on the Prairie series. Any of you that remember that, it was beautiful. But he talked about when he was young, how it was an abusive childhood. His mother would beat him with a coat hanger, and he had these tics, and she would try to pretend that she was committing suicide and all of these horrible things. And he had this tic, and he wouldn't talk to people. He was not social at all. I mean, you look at him, you know, how he turned out, and it's amazing. But he said what happened is one day he was in his physical education class, and they were doing javelin throwing. I mean, come on, people, really? But he said he'd never done that before. No one had done it really before. And he threw his javelin 30 feet farther than anyone else. And he said, I couldn't do a whole lot of things, but I could throw the javelin, and I held on to it. And that's what gave me my start. And I thought that's a success start, because you're right, that loop, if you know you've been confident in one thing, it's so much easier to apply it to another. So what you're saying is, it sounds like we need to remember that confidence and then learn how to apply that to something new and not feel like we're starting from scratch again.
Exactly. And I think once we get something like he got with the javelin, he had a belief in himself then.
Yeah.
And it's about a belief in us, because we may not know how we're going to do something, or we may not have confidence in that area. But if we have a belief in ourselves that we will be able to do something, we'll figure out how to do it. And so that's all it's about, and not letting fear in and self-doubt in, right?
So what happens when that comes? Because we've all been there where we've had our javelin throw experience and we know we can do that. And then as life makes us do, we have to up level and up level and up level again, right? We keep thinking it's going to be a done deal, but it's not. So what happens, you know, now you've had that success start, you had that self-proof that no one can take away, but now you're doing something different, and you can kind of get yourself stuck in a kind of a trap of self-doubt, like a self-defeating behavior almost, right? Where you start letting your thoughts, or maybe you had a couple of rejections, and it makes you just start thinking, I can't do that. How do we deal with that?
Well, I think first of all, we have to know what the traps are that we're getting caught in. And one of those is kind of delaying or hesitating about something, because again, then we start over analyzing. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, that's not going to work. This isn't going to help me. I'm not going to be able to do that. And so when we have a thought or something that we want to do, we just need to carry through and do it, and just push ourselves into that and not hesitate or delay, because I think that really keeps us stuck.
And I think you're right. I know I've talked a lot when I'm doing my program coaching calls, because I know the women, they'll want to jump in and be a writer or be a speaker or whatever, get their lives, 80% tidy in these different areas. And they're all gung-ho at the beginning. And then they get up to a little bit of a wall, like their personal wall, whatever it is that's stopping them. And like you said, this delay or hesitate, I always tell them, you'll get it in the doing. So just take the next step, because you'll get it in the doing. But they're too scared. And then they realize if they just take one tiny step, it's not even like the big tamale. It's just that they take one step, it kind of pierces through that self-paralysis. Do you find that's the case? It's just taking one step, even if it's not a really great step or a really big step.
You know what? It's so interesting, because Harvard just did this big study about what makes people have a good day, especially in their work. And so you would have thought, oh, it's the environment that I live in, or it's, getting rewards for what I'm doing, or bonuses in work and stuff like that. And the one thing they found was it was just one little thing, just one little step, right? What you're talking about, just one little step that mattered to them. And if they could do one thing that mattered to them that day, then they had a good day.
Oh, that is spot on true. That is spot on true. Yesterday, my daughter brought me breakfast in bed. It was toast and herbal tea. And that just started my whole day on this whole beautiful thing. It was like the lens had been set. It's going to be a great day. And no matter what happened, it was like, but still, it was a great day. I think that is so true. So it sounds like to increase your confidence, make an intentional step. Choose intentionally something that will matter to you, that will make the difference.
Yes, something that has meaning and purpose to you. And it doesn't have to be a huge, big thing. It can be just one little thing that I connected with my daughter, which is what you did. Or I finished cleaning out the closet, which I had to do right today. And just one thing gives us a feeling that, okay, that was a good day. That was a good
I love it. I think that's so fundamental. And I know with my kids, when we come back together, I kind of call this the mini win, where you have a mini win in the day. And who knew that Harvard figured out that that is what makes a really successful day? Because when we come back for family prayer at night, we'll say, okay, what was your win today? But what was your little mini win? It doesn't have to be like, I got all straight A's today. It's just a little mini win, right? I love that. Love the power of that.
And I think sometimes, again, we're in a society now that sometimes doesn't, we fear commitment and we get afraid. And as soon as we hit a wall of doing something, we disappear. We're gone.
Mm.
We disappear. And that plays into self-doubt that, oh, I can't do it. And it's too much of a challenge and everything. Challenges help us to grow. And if we take away too many challenges from our life or our kids' lives, if we coddle them and don't allow them to face that challenge, how are they going to have confidence that they can do anything?
That is a huge factor in resilience. And I know from different studies, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, but how often I'm seeing that the kids that are most resilient are the ones that had those reasonable risks, those reasonable challenges in their youth of chores, of jobs while they were going to school, reasonable jobs, not they're working there 40, 60 hours, but just reasonable things that they had to overcome. And they could see, again, going back to that true confidence thing, they could actually see themselves doing hard things. And they knew in the future, they could apply that, like we're talking about with this confidence competency loop, of being able to apply it to a future thing. So maybe a difficult job in high school, but they could apply it to one that was in college and then out of college. So I love what you're saying about this, this disappearing when we fail, but we've got to reverse that trend. So what's one thing someone could do when they see that they're going to start kind of, oh, I don't think I can succeed, I'm out. What's one thing they can do to kind of stay in the game or keep breathing through it or whatever?
I always tell people, focus on your strengths. Focus on the one thing that you know that you're good at, or that a character strength that you have, and focus on that and just push through. Because again, once we start having those successes, then we're not going to disappear. Then we're not going to think and delay. We're going to start doing things, right? And
Yes.
And I think, again, another thing too, is kind of, we're going with the D's, right? Delaying, disappearing. And now it's disappointing ourselves or disapproving of ourselves. We're hypercritical, and that can get us into the self-doubt thing too. Focusing again on the comparisons of what we're not instead of what we are, and comparison and being just hypercritical and looking at all the weaknesses we have. That'll keep us in a rut if we start thinking about all the weaknesses. Then we won't have any motivation to do anything.
Oh, that is so true. And when we do that comparison thing, how quickly that cuts our legs out from under us. Because that, like you said, that energy piece, and that's a big piece to me, is we only have so much energy. And if we're wasting that energy on looking around at what everybody else has successfully done without even knowing their backstory, without even knowing what it takes to do what they've done, then we can so easily kick ourselves out of the game just because we don't have the energy now to do the good stuff. So I love that, to focus on the strengths and then focus on the energy to do something positive about it, move forward, do something that's going to put you in that place of that space of I'm actually succeeding because I did something toward it. And isn't so much of it a time kind of an issue of it? I hear so much from people who are top names, top sales, top their game, and they say it is a time factor. Jay-Z and Beyonce, they said the genius of what we did is that we just kept going. It wasn't that we did it super well. It just, we kept going, and it kind of kept working better and better and better.
Yes, you're diligent. You persevere through things. And sometimes, again, things are going to happen. And it's not going to be a rosy path, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's and the challenges we have will teach us, and they will help us to learn things about ourselves that we never knew that we can use in the future and right then too. And the thing I hear about the most in my office is I'm not good enough. And that statement right there, I mean, where do we go if we don't feel like we're good enough? And good enough for who? As long as we're good enough for ourselves. And that's focusing again on what we are and our truth.
And how do you combat that? I hear that from women too, and trying to dissect that and say, okay, where is this coming from? And what is it that's keeping you thinking that? Because we all come as these beautiful divine packages, right? So what is it that's making you feel less than? I love that you alluded to, it sounds like there's some kind of a measurement in their mind of what they feel they should, I should be doing, I should be being, I should be saying or speaking or whatever, or thinking these shoulds and these expectations. How can someone who's in that I feel less than mode, how can they tangibly combat that?
Well, I think it's about trying to be something you're not. You have to get to know yourself. You don't love that which you don't know. And if you don't know yourself, you're not going to love yourself. And so it's, what am I? Who am I? What do I believe? What are my strengths? What are my interests? What are all those sorts of things that this is who I am? A lot of people get that message because they grew up with expectations as a child that they could not meet, the expectations of their parents or teachers or anything like that. And they just couldn't meet them in the way that that parent or that teacher wanted them to meet them. Mm-hmm. They were trying to be something they weren't and do things in ways that they couldn't do because that wasn't their strengths.
Yes. And so what's some good tangible things to get them out of it? I know that even my little guy, my 7-year-old, he struggles sometimes with this anxiety thread that's kind of a genetic thing. And so he'll get overwhelmed or feel like I just can't do this or I'm not good. And we use mantras. We talk about, I say, where is that coming from, dude? Because I see you do this all the time. And we say, I am strong. I can do this. I am strong. I can do this. But just simple little, affirmations. What are some things that somebody could do that feels like, this is a wave that keeps crashing over me that I wish I could get rid of? What are some things they can do to kind of turn that tide?
Well, first of all, again, you said something that was great. I mean, mantra, saying things over and over again, but it's saying them out loud to yourself in the third person. Connie, you know you can do this. There is research out there that says that if we say things out loud to ourselves, but in the third person, like someone else is saying it to us, it is so effective. The other thing that is simple, but it's kind of, it's hard for some people, is to write out the things that are discouraging you and throw them away. And just be done with them. But then write the good things that are going on in your life, because that encompasses the whole brain and it gives us some different perspective of maybe just what we're thinking, because writing it makes it clear on the page. And then I just think also just catching yourself and stopping the negative behavior, catching yourself when you start to do it, and then turn it around and say something good about yourself.
Oh, so true. All of those things. I know I've been in that moment where I feel really great. And then all of a sudden I see somebody's done something amazing in the same field that I'm in. And I'm thinking, what? I've been doing this with my left toe and I am just, what am I even doing? Right. And then that day, someone will come up to me and say, I can't believe all that you have been able to become and accomplish. And I see through their eyes and they're looking at all these things for 20 years that I've been doing. And I go, oh my gosh, yes. So it's cleaning out that lens. And then I know for myself, and we talked about this before about Truth Lies Journal, where you write down those things that you're thinking that are negative and you can recognize right away, is it making you feel depressed? Is it making you feel low energy? Is it making you feel like I don't want to do anything? Is it making you want to not talk to people? Then write down those beliefs that are causing that. And then on the right-hand side of the page, that's on the left. On the right hand, write the truths. Is that truthful? Is there evidence of that being true? And then write the actual truths. No, actually, I am successful at this because I've just done X, Y, and Z. So I actually am good at that. Looking for that self-proof, that javelin that you threw 30 feet farther, that you've been able to do those things. I think that is so crucial. And I love this third person thing that you said, because I've never considered saying that to myself in the mirror. I know I had an experience with my adult daughter. She was getting ready to serve a mission for our church in a European place, and she was getting overwhelmed with all the pieces to do that. And I was helping her, but trying to help her do it as an adult, because she was going to have to do it by herself in France, down the road. And one day she just would not call about this appointment, and it had to be done that day, or she was not going to make it in time. And she was like, well, I don't know. And I don't know what to say. And I don't know how to, and I remember on the phone, I just said, be your bold self, Chelsea. And it was so funny. It's our joke now, where she says it out loud, because it became this mantra for her of, okay, be your bold self, Chelsea. So you're right. That third person thing is a powerful thing. And I didn't make that connection until right now. So if someone is struggling with these things and they want to combat it, it seems like a thread we keep coming back to is what's meaningful, what really matters. And, I talk a lot about purpose-driven living and leadership and those kinds of things. You talk a lot about that need to find the purpose and how powerful that is. So how can we utilize that with this confidence factor? Where does purpose, where does this meaningful stuff, how do we go through our life and go, that's meaningful, and I know that's going to help me be more confident?
I think what we do is we go on fast track too much, that we just put ourselves on automatic pilot, and someone said we sleepwalk through life, and we don't take enough time to just be with ourselves and think, is this working for me? Or what are the things that I'm doing that are good? And all those, we have to take time. And now, there's a big trend for meditation and mindfulness and just staying in the moment and literally all the five senses. How am I feeling right now? What am I smelling? What am I seeing? Ground yourself. And when we ground ourselves again, then we can really look at ourselves realistically and not be afraid of what we see. But if we think, if I make mistakes, that's bad, or that's a failure. No, mistakes are an opportunity to learn, and they're not a failure. And so when we see those, and so it's all about our attitude about that too. Yeah.
That is so true. I think that's where kids are so helpful that way, because we're always encouraging them. My little guy's doing soccer, and he's like, we didn't win. I'm the worst player. And he does this all or nothing thinking. And I said, how did you play? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know if it, and I said, I saw you kick that ball farther down the field than you've ever done that. And you lasted the whole 220 minutes without needing to come out if he didn't want to take you out. And you did. And I went through specific things that he had actually done better than he did the time before that he was not seeing, because he had that all or nothing lens. Either we win or we don't. So it sounds to me like that sitting with yourself, doing that little self-evaluation of, what did I do well today? How did I do better today than I've done last week or the month ago or a year ago? Where am I at, and how have I become something more? I think that's so crucial, that we sit with ourselves and just have that time, that quiet time that you're talking about. That's fabulous.
And what you also talked about is so important, that we're specific with ourselves and specific with our children. Because you may say to your son, you played such a good game, and he feels crappy about it, like you said. But if you can do some specific things and also getting him to feel encouraged, how do you feel about doing well like that? And we have to do that with ourselves, right? And say, okay, I specifically like that I did this, and I feel really good about that.
I love that piece. We don't talk often enough about that feeling, but Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about that importance of, when we do our abundance meditations, what makes it more effective is if we add in that intense feeling. So you got the repetition with the intense feeling, and that's what creates that new norm in your brain, that new, wow, this is the new reality. So you're exactly right. That feeling, getting back in touch with, how did that make me feel? I felt so happy when I saw that I did that better than I had done the last time, or I kept my cool and I didn't get upset with my kids. Wow, yay for me, right? So I love that you tap into that feeling. It would seem to me, in this day and age of disconnection, whether it's social media or addiction, that it tends to, this whole thing of lack of confidence and things, we're looking for something to quick fill or get a quick hit or fill the numb, right? And so to try to feel something. So if we're in tune with the feelings that we have about ourselves already, I would imagine that would help to circumvent that, to help kind of negate that.
Change theories, we have to tap into the emotional part of us. And when we feel an emotion, that helps us to change. And it really literally does motivate us to do something different. Because we like the feeling or we don't like that feeling, right?
And then we'll come back for the feeling we like. Even if we know it's unhealthy, we'll come back to that feeling that makes us feel good for a bit of time. So the idea is, what you're saying is, get the healthy hit and be able to create a behavior and a pattern that helps us keep getting that good hit in a good, healthy way.
And it all starts with our thought processes, because our thoughts cause emotions. I mean, if we have a good thought, we're going to be happy. If we have a bad thought, we're going to feel sad. And then we do behaviors to combat that. So it's paying attention to how we're thinking.
I love it. This has been so helpful. I love just kind of a quick highlight. You've shared about the confidence competency loop. The more that we get confident in one thing, it can spill over or actively, intentionally be applied to something else, which is great, and gives us that self-proof that, yes, we don't have to prove to someone else. We already know that we can do and be certain things. I love that this Harvard study of what makes a good day is just one little step, one little intentional choice that we make that says, this was good, this mattered to me. The mini win is what I'm calling it. I love this idea of saying to yourself, maybe even in the mirror, a third person, you know, Trish, Dr. Trish, you can do this. Connie, you can do this. Susie, you can do this. I love that. And looking for those, focusing on your strengths. I'm not spending a whole lot of time in your weakness. Acknowledge that, make a plan, move on, but don't stay there. Focus on the strengths and how that strength is going to help you combat that weakness. And then lastly, being able to have that time to sit with yourself, give yourself those positive messages, get in touch with how you feel when you do good things and how you've improved over the last week, month, year, whatever it might be. I love all of these things that kind of dispel those confidence myths that we're not necessarily born with it. We don't have to think if we're not naturally confident that we can't access this, because it's a life skill that we can develop. And it's doing these intentional things that align us with our personal, our truth, our who we are, and align us with that so that we can behave in a consistent, confident way every day. Love. Thank you so much. Is there any last piece that you wanted to add that we didn't cover?
No, I think we did it well. I just think, again, the one thing, believe in yourself. Because again, and that's a choice. That's a choice. Believe you'll figure it out, even if you don't know how to do it.
Love it. And if someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you?
riverwoodsbehavioralhealth.com or rbh.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Trish, once again for these wonderful insights. If you want to get more from her, remember, she is a practicing clinician. She's been in this for years and years and years, doing research, being at the University of Utah, working with addiction, with amino acids, and seeing great success, and being able to do the emotional part of being able to deal with addiction and mental health wellness, and being able to deal with anxiety and those specific issues. She works with all kinds of clients to be able to help you, all different stages, all different ages, to help you move forward with some of these actual tools to look at your life and then move forward so you can start seeing those results right away, to have that mental wellness that's beautiful, happy, and being able to move forward in that confidence. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And thank you, everyone. If you want more of this, subscribe below, or you can always check out conniesokol.com for my newsletter, events, for more podcasts, for my TV segments, for programs, for everything that you might need to have purpose, organization, and joy in your life. Thanks so much, and join us again next time for Balance Redefined.